Hey, I think I've shared this experience before, but I'm going to do it again. Talked before about when I was in student ministry, how there were two trips that I went on with our students. One of them was a hiking trip in Western North Carolina. The other one was a canoeing trip in Northwest Arkansas. And I'm thinking particularly about the hiking trip that we went on, and the organization leader checks that we went with. They had three guides, and I think 2 weeks before we took our trip, the three guides went on the exact same trip. So they hiked the same kind of trail, and I'm kind of drawing that. They hiked the same kind of trail and the same kind of section of the trail that we were going to hike a few weeks later. So they had some familiarity, right, with what we were going to be doing. So when we got there, we arrived on a Sunday evening, and part of the trip was teaching people how to be leaders. So what that looked like was they taught the guides taught the people who were going to be leading us the next day, like kind of like how to read a map, like how to read a topographical map. And that's a map that shows height and depth and all of those kinds of things, and kind of has a trail on it. And they taught us how to read that. And so then in the morning, when we were ready to start hiking, they kind of showed us on the map, like this is where we want to be kind of by the end of the day. And then they let kind of those students lead us on that trip on where we were supposed to go. And then at the end of the day, before we called it a day, the people who were the leaders, like our guides, our point people, our map people, our orienteers, at the end of the day, then they would teach the people who were going to use the map the next day how to do it. And there's a lot of trust in that. We certainly had to learn that we had to trust the guides who had been there before where we were going. And if someone kind of got stuck, if one of the students got stuck, they would call the guides up from leader treks, and they'd be like, "Hey, like, I'm stuck a little bit," and the guide would always say, "Okay, well, where are we on the map? Look around you, look on the map, like where are we on the map to reorient us to where we were geographically." Where were we in a particular time and space so that we could determine where we were on the map as opposed to where we were supposed to be going? And this reorientation was something that happened, all the time when we were on that trip. And I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about what it looks like for us to live a life of surrender. I'm thinking about what it looks like for us to live a life of prayer. This past Sunday, I said that one of the things that I've been working on just personally in my own life, to varying degrees of success, is at different times of the day, reorienting my brain around God, reorienting my brain around what his desires and his plans are for me. And the easiest way that I've found to do that is during times of transition. So earlier this week, I was at a leadership intensive in Denver. So when I would leave my hotel room in the morning, like I would pray through like what I was about to go into. I would try to, when I remember, like this is a process, right? It's not about perfection. It's about becoming the kind of people who do the kinds of things that lead us to obedience and surrender and ultimately holiness. And that takes time, and that takes effort, and that takes energy, and we're not going to get it right all the time. But for me, I'm trying to think of like, what are the transition points throughout my day where I can stop, I can pray, and I can reorient myself. I can reorient my brain. I can reorient my heart. I can reorient physically my body. Like I can just reorient myself around what God's plans and purposes are for that thing. And I just think of that trip and all of the times that we had to stop. Where are you on the map? So a good reorientation begins with like, okay, so where am I? Kind of like checking my pulse. I'm getting ready to go maybe into this meeting, or I'm getting ready to have this conversation, or I'm getting ready to do this thing, or I'm getting ready to go to the gym where I'm going to be around people who maybe I don't know, they don't know me. Like, how are they going to experience me as a follower of Christ? Like all of those kinds of things. And this is all meant to reorient us around our mission and purpose and meaning as a follower of Christ. And that mission, purpose, and meaning is making disciples of other people. And we have to be ready for that. Jesus's instruction in Luke 22:46 was, why are you sleeping? He asked them. So be awake, pay attention. Why are you sleeping? Don't sleep. Be intentional, be purposeful. The Bible reading plan that we read today was be eager, get up and pray so that you will not give in to temptation. You're getting ready to go into a new thing. You're getting ready to do something else. Reorient yourself around God's mission, plan, and purpose for your life before you go and do this thing. And it's not just making disciples of other people, but it's being the kind of person who does the kinds of things that followers of Christ do. And we have the opportunity to do that every day, and we need to remember that. And the easiest way to do that is to pray and ask God to reorient our lives around that thing. And man, I am just such a work in progress on this. I've had way more failures on that than I've had successes this week. But this is a good reminder that when we are getting ready to do something, we should stop and pray. We should reorient our life and our lives around the person of Jesus. So I love you. I'm praying with you. I'm praying for you. And we'll see you next week.